Welcome. So today we're talking about seated postures. And seated postures in yoga are really where the foundations of yoga began. Seated meditation. So the posture, the asana, is really about sitting and sitting comfortably. It needs to be stable, it needs to be sustainable, it needs to be a place where you can hold yourself for many minutes, if not hours, in meditation. Now this is not a meditation class today, we're not going to be doing that, but we're not doing any standing poses. Okay, for those of you who are just feeling a little fatigued, a little tired, hopefully that's relief. For those of you who felt like, wait, I came for a workout, Jen, I wanted to really break a sweat, today's not that day. So next week, however, next week will be a very active class. So next week is the culmination of everything that we've done, and I will guide you through what's basically an ordinary class, trying to review many of the things that we've learned in the past 8, but what will be 9 weeks. So one of the first seated postures we're going to do, you're already basically in, is Sukhasana. Sukhasana, basically the feet are gently crossed, one in front of the other. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. However, if you've got tight hips, it might be better for you to sit on 2 blocks so that your pelvis can tilt slightly forward, the knees can come down, and you can get a little more of a stretch here on the inner thigh and sit a little taller. Another seated posture some of you might like to try is Siddhasana. Siddhasana, one foot is tucked in under the other so that both feet are sort of hidden. Some people do this naturally, they don't even think about it, but this is Siddhasana. Swastikasana is one that we might get to later. The shin goes almost horizontal across the mat. You stack your right ankle on top of that knee, or left ankle on top of the knee. Usually this knee starts out quite high for most of us. And so what we try to do is sit up nice and tall to rotate the pelvis forward, and then the knee comes down. For some of us. For some of us it doesn't. But that's a deep, tight stretch, deep in the hip. So we try to stack ankle on knee, knee over ankle. That's Swastikasana. And then the last seated posture, Baddha Konasana. We bring the soles of the feet together. We try to bring them quite close. But for some of you, they just go where they go. Now, if your knees are quite high, don't worry about it. Yes, that might be tight inner groin, but it can also be the anatomy of your femur head and the angle at which your femur inserts into your hip. So I don't think my inner groin is very tight. You know, I can take my legs wide and I can go forward and I can stretch all kinds of ways. But nevertheless, when I'm here, my knees don't touch the ground. But some people, they don't even think about it. Their knees go down almost naturally. And that's just how their hip is designed. But this is one that, as well, you can also just hang out in. You can take a forward bend in it. Stretch the inner groin. It's a good TV pose. Watching, I don't know, Game of Thrones, whatever you're watching these days. But now, to warm up, we're going to start with a seated warm-up. And I want you to choose a seated posture that's comfortable for you from any of those, whether that's Baddha Konasana, this one, or Swastikasana. There's also Ardha Padmasana, where this foot is on top of the thigh, and we bring it in quite close, and the other foot is tucked under. Full Padmasana, both feet are on top. But I don't really recommend that for anyone unless they've been sitting like that their whole lives. So choose a seated posture that's comfortable for you. And then start to close your eyes to get a sense of where your head is relative to your hips. And so I'd like you to start leaning back to the point where you feel like your knees are starting to lift. Like you're about to fall. And so your belly has to engage, your knees start to lift, and then come forward just enough to soften the belly and for the knees to rest down. And chances are that is good posture. That is balanced. That is your head positioned exactly where it should be. But to get there, you had to come back from your natural posture. Your natural posture for most of us is slightly forward because we're going forward. Everything we see is in front of us. That's where we're going. I need to be there. And so yoga asks you to stop going there and just be here. So we have to pull back a little bit. Try to keep the head very light. And now I want you to imagine that you, perhaps if you've had like a massage where they pull on your head, but it feels nice, I want you to imagine that you are being pulled and lifted from your jaw and from the base of your skull. Someone's stretching your neck. And try to hold the head high, just right there, making yourself as tall as you can. So on a very small micro level, stretching your spine. Tuck the chin slightly to lengthen the back of the neck. Now, if we were going to start meditation, this would be a good start. But we're just going to start moving because we have many seated postures I want to try to get through. Now from here, we're going to interlace the fingers, press the palms up towards the ceiling. Now if that's too tight for your shoulders, then release the hands, make it a little softer. But if you can keep the hands interlaced, we try to reach high on the inhale, but then on the exhale, release some of the effort. Soften the neck and the shoulders a little bit. Now taking a hold of the left wrist, start to lean to the right and really pull that left arm as if you're pulling that arm out of the socket a little bit. Feel that stretch under the arm and around the ribs, releasing the right arm. See if you can go a little further, but try to keep that left knee down. If the left knee rises, then you're shortening the stretch. We want to try to keep that knee down. Those of you, I don't think anyone's doing it, but anyone who has the foot on top of the thigh or tucked there, it keeps that knee down. You don't have to worry so much about the knee coming up. And then inhale back to center. Interlace the fingers. If you like to change the cross of your legs, because maybe you've been there for a while, change the cross of your legs. Inhale, take the arms up. Relax the shoulders on the exhale. And then taking hold of your right wrist, start to lift and pull as you lean to the left, and then release the left arm. See if you can go a little further. So this is one of the movements of the spine, lateral flexion and extension. So it's flexion on this side, extension on that side. Doesn't matter really what it's called. It's a movement in your spine that we don't often do in an ordinary day. You don't go to your cupboard to get a glass like that. But it's important for your spine to move this way too. And then inhale, coming back up to center. The next movement of the spine is rotation. So when you're ready, sitting up nice and tall, start to turn your chin to the left shoulder, bringing the right hand over to the left knee. Using a strong left arm behind you to help you to sit up nice and tall. Trying to bring that middle back in. Try not to hold the breath. Still breathing steady. Now we're going to keep the right hand where it is. Raise the left arm up, adding a bit of lateral flexion and extension, taking the right shoulder towards the right knee. So again, getting a bit of a stretch there on the left side of the body. And then inhale, coming up. Maybe change the cross of your legs again as we go to the other side. Sitting up nice and tall, turning around to the right, turning your chin down to the right shoulder, bringing the left hand across to the right knee, supporting yourself from behind with a strong right arm. Thinking of your spine like a spiral staircase that's going up a cone. So at the base of the spiral, it's really wide and large, but as the spiral starts to go up the cone, it gets a little smaller and a little tighter as you climb up to the top to look out around you. Now keeping the left hand where it is, raise the right arm, start to lean over, taking the left shoulder towards the left knee. Still breathing. And then inhale, coming back up. Now the last movement of the spine is flexion and extension. So we're going to do a lot of flexion, that's forward bending in this class, so we're not going to do very much here, but we will take a little extension. So interlace the fingers behind, really squeeze those arms behind you, squeezing the elbows in towards each other. Those of you who can bring the base of the hands together, bring the base of the hands and the wrists together, lifting the chin. If they don't quite make it, just keep the wrists apart, that's all right too. If you can't quite do this, you might just hold your forearms behind your back as well. That's still opening the front of the chest, stretching across here, which for most of us, this is what we need. We spend so much time with our shoulders curled forward and our arms in front of us. This kind of extension is good for the chest and it's good for the back, strengthening the back muscles. One more inhale there, and then exhale, start to release and come out. All right, stretching the legs out in front of you. Go ahead and move your blocks. Some of you might still like to stay seated on a blanket, but probably not the blocks. The blocks are probably a bit high. I'll tell you one of my opinions about sitting up on blocks. I'll just show you, because for some of you, it is a good thing because it tilts your pelvis forward. But what starts to happen is when we take a forward bend, you start to hyperextend the knees. So if you feel like you do want to be up on the blocks, I just encourage you to roll up your blanket, put it under your knees a little bit so that I don't have to worry so much about you locking and hyperextending your knees when we take the forward bend. So the first forward bend, well, actually the first pose is Dandasana. It's just this. We place the hands right by the hips, pressing the palms firmly down into the floor as if you could lift your legs up off the floor. So we really try to push down into the ground, trying to create more distance between the ears and the shoulders. Still trying to keep the head high and the neck long. So from Dandasana, we're going to go to Paschimottanasana, raising the arms up. Exhale, start to lean forward. We're not going to go forward because we're going to come straight back up. Inhale, raise the arms up, and exhale, release. All right, now what we're going to add is Purvottanasana. We're going to go through a cycle where we go from Paschimottanasana to Purvottanasana. Now, for this one, if you are not lifting yourself up with straight legs, you might bend the knees and pick your hips up. You might also just take the hands behind and lift your chin and chest if you don't want to bear weight on your legs, on your wrists. Sorry for that. So you might just watch the first couple of times if you're not sure what's going on. Otherwise, when you're ready, inhale, raise the arms up. Exhale, forward bend, just touch down, reach the arms around and behind. Inhale, raise the hips up. Start to bring the hips back down. Exhale, Paschimottanasana, forward bend. Reach the arms around and behind. Inhale, lift yourself up. Bringing the hips down. Exhale, forward bend. When you're ready, start to move with your own breath, reaching around behind. Inhale to lift. Exhale, forward bend. Keep moving on your own with your own breath. Warming up the legs, warming up the hips and the arms and the shoulders. Because when we start doing the seated postures, we do want to have a bit of blood flow moving through the muscles, a bit of lubrication around the joints. Now we're going to take just one last forward bend and resting there in the forward bend. So staying there for a few moments. Don't worry if you can't reach the feet. Now go ahead and grab your belt. Taking the belt, placing it around your feet. And just having it there ready for you to grab. So still sitting in Dandasana. Inhale, raise the arms up. Exhale, start to take the forward bend, and then if you can't reach the edges of the feet, take a hold of your belt, wrap it around your hands a few times, keeping the chin and chest lifted for a couple of breaths. And now exhale as you start to lean towards the legs. So there's two ways to take this posture, either keeping the chin and chest slightly lifted and forward, or tucking the chin and curling the spine downwards. And I'd like you to try both. I'd like you to see how it feels different. When you tuck the chin and curl the spine, you add the stretch of the back in the posture. So the stretch of the legs is pretty much always there in both examples. But for some of you, adding the stretch of the back where you tuck the chin is too intense. You start stretching a nerve and it's uncomfortable. So for those of you who feel uncomfortable, you keep the chin and chest slightly lifted. The other thing that can happen, if you spread your toes and pull your feet towards you, pressing the back of the knees into the ground, that also increases the intensity of the stretch. So if that is too much to bear, relax the feet, relax the knees. It becomes a very passive stretch. For some of you, that's where you need to be. Ideally, the stretch is active. We do work towards actively stretching the back of the leg, engaging the quadriceps and the muscles in the front of the leg. But for some of you, just staying here is challenging enough. Now on the inhale, start to come back up and release. You might keep the belt close by, but we probably won't need it for the next one. Keeping your right leg straight, I'm going to bend the left knee. Start to turn the belly to the left, supporting yourself from behind with a strong left arm. Tamara's going to keep her belly mostly forward, and she's just going to turn around the chest and the upper shoulders. But for those of you who can, I'd like you to really try to bring your right ribs closer to that left thigh by hugging that left knee close to your right armpit. For those of you who can go further still, we try to take the right arm outside the left knee and turn around behind you, turning the chin to the left shoulder. Keep the right leg active, spreading the toes, and trying to bring that middle back in a little bit, still sitting up nice and tall. Holding steady there for another inhale, and then exhale, release. Start to change sides. Straightening the left leg, bend the right knee. Yep, starting to turn to the right Bringing your right hand behind you, sitting up nice and tall. Hugging the right knee close to the left armpit, trying to bring the left ribs closer to the right thigh. Or if you're able to, taking the elbow outside the knee. Keep the left leg active, spreading the toes. So it's quite common when you turn your attention away from a limb, it will just relax. So where you take your awareness engages that part of the body. One more inhale there. Exhale, start to release, straightening out your legs. So that was a variation of Marichyasana 3. Marichyasana 1 starts to get a little more challenging, but there's some easy stages for it. So straightening the right leg, bend the left knee, but we try to bring it in quite close. Those of you who cannot easily reach the foot with your left hand, take the belt around the foot, hold the belt there. Ideally, for this particular part, now you could just stay here taking the forward bend, but it does have a shoulder and arm component. To add to that component, you need to be able to get your armpit in front of that shin and then internally rotate your hand. So spinning the thumb down to bend the left elbow and wrap the right arm around and behind to clasp the fingers behind the back. You're actually not as far as you think. Bringing this knee close to the armpit, you need to lean forward. And then we bend it there. That's a good start. Oh, you're so close. You're so close. You're not quite getting there. But we'll take a belt between your hands. So grab it. There you go. And then we try to take the forward bend towards the right knee. It's a bit awkward. If it doesn't come easily, skip it. It's okay. You're still getting a forward bend on the right leg. Now from here, inhale, start to come out and change sides. Stretching out the left leg. Bring the right knee in close. Now you understand why it's so important to have it close, because if you have it out too far, you can't possibly get that arm around the shin. So the closer you have it, the easier it is to reach that arm around behind. So reaching the right arm forward to catch the outer edge of the left foot. If you're not quite getting there, use your belt and just stay there. This is your forward bend. That's pretty good. But if your knee is already behind your right armpit, you can probably internally rotate that shoulder, spinning the thumb down, bend that right elbow behind you, and reach the left arm behind and take the bind. We need to bring this closer. So can you bring that closer? There you go. And grab them tight. No, it's not happening. That's okay. You're close. Let's get the belt between. There you go. But we want this knee to be closer to here. Yeah, so that's the hard part, is trying to get this thigh into the ribs. When you're ready, inhale, start to come out. And release, stretching the legs out. Now, one that's a little bit easier is Janu Shirshasana. Don't let the name fool you. It means nose to knee. But there are lots of variations in between here and there. So we're going to start with a straight right leg. Bend the left knee, taking it out to the side. turning your belly just towards that leg. Because the reason I point that out is because if most people just go forward for that foot, their torso and their spine is actually going this way, somewhere in between the legs, and then they turn at the very end to try and grab that foot. So I'd like you to start turning towards that leg by taking the left hand to the outside of the right knee. And then we're going to slide the hand down the leg. If you can't quite reach the foot, then again use your handy dandy little belt into the left hand. And just gently guide yourself towards the knee. And I want you to ignore the whole nose to knee part. What I want you to think about is taking your chin to your shin. We want to go forward, not just downward. Now, for those of you who are easily reaching the foot and you think you can take the bind, the right hand, the back of the right hand comes under the sole of the foot and holds the wrist of the left hand. And what that does is it allows you to bend the elbows out to the side to rest the head down so that it's pulling you forward, not just taking you down towards the knee. And most importantly, keep breathing through these seated postures. Oftentimes, seated postures are held for 3 to 5 minutes. And so you need to be at a place where you can comfortably hold them. All right, now from here, those of you who have the belt, we're going to take Pavarita Janu Shirshasana. So, I'm going to go through the belt people first. Shireen, you just stay where you are. So for the belt people, bring your right elbow inside the left knee. Now you're going to need to give yourself a little slack as you raise the left elbow and turn to look under your left arm. So making this big arc with your body. Shireen, the elbow is inside the knee. You hold the inner edge of the foot with your right hand. The left hand goes to the outside of the foot. You turn to look under the left arm. Oh, Ruby, you are so close. Are you sure you can't touch those toes? You're so close. There you go. Now they're touching. And look, I do want to encourage you to go a little further, but don't ever feel like I'm pushing you, okay? If you're not comfortable going further, don't go further. On the inhale, start to come back up and change sides. Stretching the left leg out, bend the right knee. Bringing that foot in quite close to the groin. If you're going to use the belt, go ahead and wrap your belt around the foot. Turning the belly to the left leg, bring the right hand over, sliding the right hand down the outer edge of the leg, taking a hold of the outer edge of the foot or taking the belt into your right hand, and then exhale, guide yourself down towards the leg. Again, trying to go forward, not just straight down towards the knee. If you're going to take the bind, the left hand comes around the outer edge of the left foot and holds the wrist of the right hand. Is your knee uncomfortable? Just that knee, or both knees?
Mostly the right knee.
But is the left knee uncomfortable too?
Wasn't as bad, but
Okay, try rolling up a blanket and placing it under your knees. So you might be hyperextended, which means your forward bends are going to have a bent knee, but that might be better. That might be better for your knee. That's good. All right, now we're going to take Pavarita Janu Shirshasana, rotated Janu Shirshasana. So moving your left elbow inside the knee, as if you could bring your shoulder to that left knee. Start to raise the right elbow as you turn to look under the right arm. creating this long stretch on the right side of the body in this arc. Let's take the belt into the top hand. There you go. Yeah, there you go. You can almost reach this foot. Can you? Hang in there. Stretch this arm down. There. And then turn. Still breathing, I hope. And then inhale, start to release. And come on out. All right, now the next one also kind of falls into the crazy category. Ardha Baddha Padma Paschimottanasana. So, let me show you what it looks like first, and then I'm going to show you how you can modify it. So I told you Ardha Padmasana was this one, where one foot was on top of the thigh, really close to the hips. So Ardha Baddha Padma, this foot, also comes close to the hip, and we bring it into the belly. So we bring it into the belly, roll it down, try to bring that knee down. The bind, the Baddha part, so Ardha is half, Baddha is bound, Padma is foot. And then the Paschimottanasana is the forward bend. So, where do you begin? First of all, if this isn't happening, because for some of you this is uncomfortable for your ankle, you can't get it quite that high, then you might just rest your ankle here above your knee, making like the figure 4 shape, like that. And if that's uncomfortable because your ankle bones are pressing into your knee, then use your blanket and give yourself a little padding there. Now, if you can sort of get it close, but you can't get the bind, take the belt around your, we're starting with the left leg straight. I know previously we've been doing the right leg straight, but let's start with the left leg straight. The belt will go around your right ankle, pass the belt to the left so that your right hand can go around and behind and take a hold of the belt. So what's the benefit of this? You now get a shoulder stretch as well as a hip stretch here and the hamstring stretch in the left leg. So you get a few things. Try to adjust where you can. And if it's all just the wheels are falling off and this is just not going well, then come back to this, bring the foot down to the floor. You can still get a good shoulder stretch with the arm behind the back. Okay? Adjust the pose to suit you. So find that happy place where you can concentrate and focus and breathe and sustain the posture without feeling discomfort or pain. And then inhale, start to come up and change sides. Stretching out the right leg, supporting the left leg. If you're going to try to bring the left leg in, give it a bit of a stretch first before you bring that heel into the belly and place the foot down. Now please notice my ankle is on the thigh, not just my toes. If I just take my toes there, then that sort of bends my ankle in half. It's not the toes I want on my thigh, it's the ankle that we want there at the top of the hip. If you're going to use the belt goes around the left ankle, pass it around the right side of the body so the left arm can reach around and behind and take a hold of the belt. So you get a good stretch there in the left shoulder. Inhale to lift, exhale to go forward. Yes, and use the blanket for padding if the bones of your left foot are digging into your right thigh. Or again, as I mentioned before, just bring the foot to the inner thigh on the mat, just like we did earlier in the last pose, Janu Shirshasana. And then inhale, start to come up. Exhale, release. Okay, this next one, trying Mukha Ekapada, Paschimottanasana. We're going to start with the left leg. No, let's start with the right leg straight. You bend your foot behind you, and for most of us, that means we're sitting a little bit sideways. The hips, this left hip is now higher than the right hip. So for most of us, that means we either need to place a block or folded up blanket under the right hip to try and level the hips. If this is uncomfortable for your left knee, please don't even do it for now. It's one of those boxes you just won't tick off the list. That's okay. Now once you're there, start to walk the hands forward. We won't stay here for very long. We've already done lots of forward bending, Paschimottanasana. This is just kind of an extra one that you can add to the list that I just wanted to share with you. Okay, then don't do it. We won't hold this one for very long. We'll come right out of it in just another breath. When you're ready, inhale, start to come up and change sides. Straightening out the right leg, bending the left knee behind. Adjust the height. Under your left hip. Inhale to lift, exhale into the forward bend. Is that uncomfortable for your knee or your ankle or both? Okay, ankle. That's all right. And that's part of what this class is about. Discovering what suits you and what doesn't suit you. What poses will you keep? What poses will you not keep? And then when you're ready, inhale, start to come up. And exhale, release. All right, now there are a handful of seated postures which require a bit more core strength. If at any point in your life you have broken your tailbone, I would encourage you to skip the next posture or fold your blanket so that you have like this little tunnel for your tailbone to go in and your buttocks to sit on. But let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to do Navasana, which is boat pose. You will take it very gently, keeping your feet down. So leaning back, holding the back of your knees, we'll just start here. Keeping the chin and chest lifted, you should be fine right there. Those of you who want to go a little further, you might release the hands. And suddenly you feel your belly is strong and engaged. But I want you to think about sucking your belly button in, not to look thin, but to use your side abdominals, so it's not just all front abdominals keeping you forward. It's the side abdominals that will pull that belly button in, and they're the ones that really support our core a bit more than just the front abdominals. Now, if you want to go a little higher, hold the back of the knees and take the toes to eye level. And then again, if you want to test yourself a little more, release the hands and try to keep the toes at eye level. And then finally, just try to straighten the legs. See how you go. Try not to hold your breath. Keep reaching. And release. That is a tough one. Navasana, boat pose. There is also Ardha Navasana, which is half boat. Does not sound very seaworthy, but we can give it a try because it's actually a little bit easier. So lying on your back, we still just try to reach for the knees. So strong in the belly, keeping the toes eye level or a little bit higher, reaching for the knees. Holding steady for another breath. You should be able to whistle or talk or sing a song. And then release. Resting back. You can lie down if you like for a moment. From here, we're going to roll to your side and come on up. We need to start cruising through the next few seated postures. We're going to get through the list. Upavista Konasana. Now, I could just tell you take your legs out to the side, but I want to show you there's another way to get there. Hooking your first two fingers inside the big toes, wrapping your thumb around those two fingers, and then just try to balance, picking the feet up. So far, so good. Got most of you there. Now we try and stretch the legs up. Upaya Padangustasana. And then from there we take the legs out wide and then release down to Upavista Konasana. Ideally the hands stay on the toes, but anyway, I didn't think anyone was going to get there, so that's all right. However you get there, wide-legged forward bend. Upavista Konasana. There's not much to this really, except we just walk the hands forward and you go where you go. For those of you who have a bolster, you might want to put the bolster on your belly. You can rest on the bolster. If you don't quite reach the bolster, you might place a block or two on your bolster, rest your head on the block or the bolster. Spreading the toes. We're going to do some twists. You're just going to stay leaning forward.
Okay.
On the rest your head on the bolster and just relax. If you want to go further forward, just push the chair away. All right, now from here, come on back up. We're going to do a couple side stretches. Raising the left arm. Start to lean over. Ideally, we bring the elbow to the inside of the knee, but some of us won't get there. Some of us will just have to rest the elbow on the knee. Turning your chin to the left shoulder, we try and reach the toes. But if you don't quite reach the toes, just wiggle your fingers towards the toes, and eventually they'll get there. And then inhale, start to come up. Going to rush through these last few. Going to the other side, raising the right arm, bringing the elbow to the knee, turning to look under your right arm. Wiggle your fingers at your toes, and then maybe through yoga magic, they will get there. And then inhale, coming up. The last one we're going to do is a rotation, so turning to the right leg, bring the left hand over. Some of you will just stay here. Some of you will be able to slide that hand down the outer leg and reach the outer edge of the foot. If you can't quite reach the foot, but you wish you could, use your belt and gently guide yourself down towards the right foot. And then inhale, start to come up. Turning around to the other side, bring the left hand to the outer leg. The right hand to the outer left leg, sliding that hand down. If you can't quite reach the foot again, use your belt. And then inhale, start to come up. Probably one of the last poses I think we'll do is Gomukhasana, cow face pose. There's still a few others, but we might do them at the end of next class, because there's only about 5 of them. All right, to get into Gomukhasana, let me just show you what happens first. You need to be able to stack your knees and then sit between your feet. So if that's not happening, you can sit on a block, or you can also straighten out this bottom leg so that you look more like that. Okay, so think about, go ahead and have an experiment, have a feel. We want the left knee on top first. So you notice how I went into it first. I started on my knees. I took the right knee behind the left knee. I spread my feet out wide, and then I sat down between the feet. Okay. Now don't force it. If it does not feel right, if it's just not happening, if even sitting on a block doesn't make it any easier, then just stretch the right leg out so that the right leg is straight, and you try to bring this left foot in close. You still try to stack the knees. Your buttocks need to be on the floor, or on the block, yeah. There you go. So just stay there. Okay. Now, from here, straighten out your right leg. Straighten out the right leg, yeah. But bring the left leg over. There we go. That's it. All right, now for some of you, just going forward is enough. That's all you need to do. But those of you who want to add on to this posture, there is a shoulder stretch and a tricep stretch. The first shoulder stretch, so the knee that's on top is the elbow that's going to go up. But let's start with the right arm first. Internally rotate the right shoulder. That means you spin the thumb down and away from you. Take your arm behind your middle back. Raise the hand up as high as you can between the shoulder blades. If you cannot, let's do this arm first then. Externally rotate this one, so spinning the palm to the wall behind you. We bend that elbow, keeping the elbow high, and see if you can clasp the hands behind the back. If you are so close, but you're just not there, grab your belt, and really you can grab the belt anywhere. Take it up and drop the belt down into the bottom hand. So we get the shoulder stretch and the tricep stretch. You can just stay here if you like, or exhale into the forward bend. And then inhale, start to release and come up. Those of you with straight legs, just swap. Those of you with crossed legs like this, left leg is on top. Pick yourself up, spin around to your right, keep spinning around, and then shazam, the right knee is on top. Little yoga magic for you. All right, we need to move quickly through this because we are quickly running out of time. Knee that's on top, that elbow is going to go up. So internally rotate the left hand as you take it around behind, bend the left elbow, wiggle that hand up between the shoulder blades, raise the right arm. If you already think right now you're not going to touch those fingers, go ahead and grab your belt. Spin the palm towards you, keep the elbow high, close to the ear as you grab the belt behind the back. Either stay exactly where you are or exhale into the forward bend. And then inhale, start to come out. You will have to take Shavasana at home because we've run out of time. Thank you very much for coming out this evening. Namaste.